Good morning, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. It's Tuesday, January 13th, 2026, and this is your AM update. As DHS surges more assets to Minnesota, a deeper look at what far-left agitators are doing to try to thwart the federal government.
The obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity is a violation of the Constitution and of federal law.
Officials in Minnesota and Illinois each launching legal challenges against the Trump administration's immigration enforcement efforts.
We just came here and he appears dead. There's blood.
The man suspected of killing Ohio couple Spencer and Monique Tepe appearing in court for the first time, a full report on the gruesome story. And a former Trump official lands a key job with Facebook parent company Meta. All that and more coming up in just a moment on your AM Update. Our sponsor, the Electronic Payments Coalition, says Washington politicians are always getting in your wallet and that now they're messing with your credit card. They say your credit card and the security it offers are under attack, and that Senators Dick Durbin and Roger Marshall want to change the nation's payment system in a way that would benefit corporate megastores like Walmart and Target at the expense of everyday Americans. Credit cards can keep your payments secure, and they can provide rewards that families use to help make everyday purchases more affordable. The Electronic Payments Coalition says the Durbin-Marshall mandates would let corporate megastores cut corners on credit card processing, routing transactions over cheaper, untested networks with weaker security and fewer protections. Find out more at guardyourcard.com and consider telling Congress to guard your card. As protesters continue to stalk, harass, and attempt to intimidate federal agents in Minnesota after the deadly confrontation with Renee Good, who was a trained ICE agitator, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announcing Sunday on Fox that hundreds more agents will be deployed to Minneapolis.
There'll be hundreds more in order to allow our ICE and our Border Patrol individuals that are working in Minneapolis to do so safely. We're going to continue to, if they conduct violent activities against law enforcement, if they impede our operations, that's a crime, and we will hold them accountable to those consequences. So unfortunately, when you don't have the partnership of the city, Mayor Fry and Governor Walz have been very clear that they're going to continue their rhetoric. They're going to continue to put criminals and corrupt illegal aliens above the people that live in that city and in that state. They've said they're not going to help us, so we'll make sure that we protect our officers, but we also follow through on making sure these criminals are brought to justice.
Secretary Noem saying agents in Minnesota are specifically focusing on arresting and removing sex trafficking and child trafficking offenders. Social media video showing a tense situation yesterday, dozens of agitators arriving to the aftermath of a scene where agents had just rear-ended a man's car. The AP reporting protesters flocking to the area, blowing whistles, shouting at and surrounding agents. The feds deploying tear gas to disperse the crowd, allowing officers to exit the commotion. These confrontational tactics echoing guidance promoted by Minnesota ICE Watch, the activist group Renee Good reportedly belonged to, now under renewed scrutiny following the deadly confrontation between Good and an ICE agent. Minnesota ICE Watch encouraging so-called direct action, advocating for outside activists to physically insert themselves into law enforcement operations. President Trump on Sunday from Air Force One discussing the Renee Good incident as part of a larger national trend where agitators force confrontations with law enforcement.
The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw that. They were harassing them, were following for days and for hours. And I think, frankly, they're professional agitators. And I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out, who's paying for it. With their brand new signs and all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement should not be in a position where they have to put up with this stuff. What that woman and what her friend and what their other friends were doing to law enforcement, not just ICE, law enforcement is outrageous.
The New York Post reporting Good got connected to Minnesota ICE Watch through her 6-year-old son's social justice-focused charter school. The Post describing ICE Watch as a, quote, loose coalition of activists dedicated to disrupting ICE raids in the sanctuary city. The Minnesota ICE Watch Instagram account remains public, linking to hundreds of posts containing community guidance, encouragement, and legal resources for its followers. ICE Watch instructing its activists to let the so-called victim, meaning the criminal illegal immigrant into their own car, block the cars of the, quote, kidnappers, meaning ICE, with multiple civilian cars, and, quote, ask white witnesses to put their bodies in front of the person that's being kidnapped. The account also sometimes providing live reporting on the location of law enforcement officers throughout the city. These are methods to stop ICE from catching and removing criminals, a disturbingly high number of whom are sex offenders and child predators. Here's MK True Crime contributor and lifetime prosecutor Matt Murphy.
These are some of the people that are most dedicated to getting sex offenders arrested, putting them in prison, and then ultimately deporting them if they're not here legally, right? And in 2023, ICE arrested 4,390 sex offenders. It's a part of their job. That was the last year of Joe Biden. And nobody said a friggin' word because back then, shockingly, we all kind of agreed it's a bit of a bipartisan issue. We're going to protect kids who aren't political at all. Children deserve the protection of all adults, regardless of what side of the political aisle they're on, right? So in 2024, last year, first year of President Trump, ICE arrested 16,552 sex offenders. And that is their priority. They had a special operation in the state of Florida called Operation Dirtbag. And that's the federal law enforcement officials, the women and men that do that, are critical to protecting our kids.
National Review reporting on guidance from the ICE Watch account on how to, quote, de-arrest these individuals after they've been arrested by law enforcement by, quote, physically removing an arrestee from a law enforcement officer's grip. Law enforcement officials repeatedly warning this guidance is dumb. What they say is it's not protected protest. It's illegal and it's dangerous. Here, a flashback to Chicago Police Chief Larry Snelling last October.
Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that, and you are putting yourself in danger following law enforcement agents around. The question is why? What do you plan on doing? It's also reasonable for them to believe that you're eventually going to do harm to them.
Two Democrat-led states, Illinois and Minnesota, launching separate lawsuits yesterday against the Trump administration relating to ongoing federal immigration enforcement efforts. The state of Illinois, as well as the city of Chicago, filing suit in the Northern District of Illinois accusing U.S. Customs and Border Protection of occupying the city and state in order to, quote, coerce plaintiffs to abandon their policies which value and respect the state's immigrants and devote their resources to further the immigration policies of the current administration. Illinois state law restricts police from cooperating with federal immigration enforcement, drawing the ire of the administration. More from the filing, quote, the federal government's menacing, violent, and unlawful incursion impedes Illinois and Chicago from carrying out core sovereign functions in violation of the 10th Amendment. Illinois seeking a court order barring CBP from carrying out civil immigration enforcement in the state. The latest move coming after months of legal conflict with the Trump administration over immigration enforcement. In September, the feds launching Operation Midway Blitz, a sweeping surge targeting criminal illegal aliens. DHS officials reporting the surge has netted thousands of arrests in the months since, despite public resistance from state and local officials. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin responding in a statement, quote, this is a baseless lawsuit, and we look forward to proving that in court. In Minnesota, Attorney General Keith Ellison, a Democrat, filing a lawsuit on behalf of the state and cities Minneapolis and St. Paul against DHS. The Trump administration in December beginning the surge of thousands of immigration agents and investigators into the region, responding to widespread allegations of fraud committed by the Somali immigrant community. Tensions escalating following an incident last week involving an ICE agent fatally shooting a woman disobeying police commands to exit her vehicle and instead driving her car into the alarmed officer. AG Ellison referring to the DHS crackdown yesterday in a press briefing as, quote, in essence, a federal invasion. More from Ellison on the lawsuit.
This has to stop. It just has to stop. We allege that the obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity, for our democracy, and our differences of opinion with the federal government is a violation of the Constitution and of federal law. We allege that the surge's reckless impact on our schools, on our local law enforcement, is a violation of the 10th Amendment and the sovereign laws and powers of the Constitution grants to states. We allege that DHS's use of excessive and lethal force, their warrantless, racist arrests, their targeting of our courts, our churches, houses of worship, and schools are a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act on arbitrary and capricious federal actions, and we ask that the courts will end the surge of thousands of DHS agents into Minnesota.
A White House spokesperson calling the lawsuit a, quote, pathetic stunt that only proves that Democrats will put illegal criminals over hardworking Americans every time, according to Axios. Coming up, the suspect in a gruesome double murder of the Tepe family makes his first appearance in court. And Facebook parent company Meta hires a Trump admin alum for a key new role. What's happening at Meta? If you are looking to make smarter choices for your health this year, consider Riverbend Ranch. Their steaks are not only delicious, but they contain real high-quality protein that helps fuel your body. You see the new food pyramid? Meats like steak are at the top now of what you should be consuming. Beef is a complete protein and contains all 9 essential amino acids your body needs to function. It also keeps you fuller for longer, reducing cravings and snacking. But here's the key. Not all beef is created equal. The quality of the beef depends entirely on how it's raised and where it comes from. That's where Riverbend Ranch stands apart. For more than 35 years, Riverbend Ranch has been building an elite Black Angus herd, carefully selecting cattle for exceptional flavor and tenderness. All Riverbend Ranch cattle are born and raised right here in the USA. They never use growth hormones or antibiotics, and the beef is processed at the ranch in their award-winning USDA-inspected facility. No shortcuts, no middlemen. Just incredible, healthy, and flavorful beef shipped direct to your home. Order today at riverbendranch.com and use the promo code Megyn for $20 off your first order. An Illinois surgeon accused of fatally shooting his ex-wife, 39-year-old Monique Tepe, and her husband, 37-year-old Spencer, inside their Columbus home, set to be extradited back to Ohio to face aggravated murder charges. Michael McKee appearing in an Illinois courtroom on Monday, waiving his right to an extradition hearing. His public defender indicating McKee intends to submit a not guilty plea. Authorities arresting McKee on Sunday night, nearly 2 weeks after the grisly Tepe murder, captivating the country. The gruesome story beginning on December 30th, when Spencer did not show up to the office where he worked as a dentist. Spencer's unexcused absence raising concerns among his coworkers. Here, the 911 audio from Dr. Mark Valros, owner of the dental practice, requesting a wellness check at the Tepe home.
This individual, Spencer, works with me, and he did not show up to work this morning, and we cannot get a hold of him or his family. Like, he is always on time, and he would contact us if there was any issues whatsoever. And I just don't know how else to say this. Like, we're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
Police conducting that wellness check, but reportedly initially going to the wrong address. Friends and colleagues continuing to check up on the home, some reporting to 911 that they could hear the children, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, inside the house. Spencer's friend, Alex Diddy, then following up with another 911 call.
What's going on there? There's a body. Our friend wasn't answering his phone. We just came here, and he appears dead. There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood. I can't get closer to see more than that.
Okay, so you can tell he's obviously not breathing or anything?
Yeah.
Around 10 a.m., police finding the Tepes deceased in their home. Authorities discovering the children unharmed. Investigators say the killings likely happened in the early morning hours of December 30th, recovering 3 shell casings from the home. Surveillance footage near the scene showing a person of interest wearing a hood walking in an alleyway near the scene on the night of the murders. Court filings indicating detectives identified a vehicle spotted near the Tepe residence just before and after the murders. Police tracing that vehicle to Rockford, Illinois, and identifying McKee as its owner. Authorities arresting McKee on Saturday morning. McKee and Monique married in 2015 before reportedly divorcing just 2 years later, amicably in 2017. They shared no children. Monique marrying Spencer in 2021, a family member telling a local outlet the couple was just shy of their 5-year anniversary. Investigators have not yet indicated a motive behind the slayings. Shortly before the extradition hearing, prosecutors upgrading the charges to 2 counts of aggravated murder with premeditation. McKee's charges carrying the possibility of the death penalty, though Ohio has not carried out an execution since 2018. McKee's public defender indicating the defendant could be transferred to Ohio as early as this week. We spoke with MK True Crime host Jonna Spilbor about this case and what's next when McKee makes it to Ohio.
He's going to face the same procedures that any other defendant faces. And the first thing that he will do is be arraigned on the charges. And right now, the charges are 2 counts of murder. So from there, I would be so surprised if they set any sort of bail, because he's not from Ohio. He's from a neighboring state. And if he doesn't have any contacts or meaningful contact in Ohio, it's highly likely that he would be a flight risk. And that is what a bail setting is primarily about. So I expect that following the arraignment, he will be sitting inside an 8x10 cement cell in Ohio.
Spilbor reacting to prosecutors upgrading the charges to aggravated murder.
So if they have the right guy, here's the premeditation. He had to leave his home in Illinois, get himself over to Ohio, do so in the middle of the night when typically you do not think you're going to be discovered or seen by others, carry a weapon, a gun, shoot the 2 victims, leave, get back to Illinois under the cover of darkness. That's got premeditation all over it. And let's factor in for a minute the fact that since we don't know whether there was an ongoing relationship between Mr. McKee and any of the Tepes, we also have to figure that the 7 years that he was not married to her contributed to this notion of premeditation.
With many questions still swirling about what could have motivated the alleged suspect to commit such an act and what evidence prosecutors have connecting McKee to the crime, Spilbor drawing a parallel to another recent high-profile multiple murder.
They're going to start getting phone records. That's usually the very next step. There will probably be some sort of DNA at the scene. That will be critical. I know this case is not the same as the Brian Kohberger case, but it's got some similar elements. When Brian Kohberger was first contacted by police, they had basically identified a similar car. Number one, that's the first dot that they connected. And then they did the genetic genealogy, which was the second dot they connected. And even then, I think there were some people who weren't 100% sure that it was going to end up being him. But our technology is such now that they already have a couple of those dots connected in this case against McKee, and they're just going to keep on collecting the evidence to connect those dots.
The MK True Crime crew will have more on this story on their show tomorrow. Search MK True Crime in your podcast app. Facebook parent company Meta hiring a new president and vice chairman with extensive ties to MAGA world. Dina Powell McCormick, who spent 16 years in senior leadership roles at Goldman Sachs and previously served on Meta's board, bringing decades of experience developing relationships with international investors to the tech company as it focuses on expanding its AI footprint. Axios noting Powell McCormick's hiring signals a strategic shift at Meta, moving beyond its core ad business into building new tech. Meta founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg releasing a statement, quote, Dina's experience at the highest levels of global finance combined with her deep relationships around the world makes her uniquely suited to help Meta manage this next phase of growth as the company's president and vice chairman. Same social media company that spent years policing speech and pushing progressive ideology, now taking another step closer to MAGA. Powell McCormick, previously serving as Deputy National Security Advisor under President Trump's first term, she takes the job as Meta faces increasing scrutiny from lawmakers over its AI policies. In that capacity, McCormick working on the Abraham Accords, a series of historic U.S. brokered agreements normalizing relations between Israel and several Arab nations. President Trump posting to Truth Social yesterday morning, quote, "Congratulations to Dina Powell McCormick. She is a fantastic and very talented person who served the Trump administration with strength and distinction." Powell McCormick also serving as a senior White House advisor under President George W. Bush. She's married to U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania, Republican Dave McCormick. And that'll do it for your AM Update. I'm Megyn Kelly. Join me back here for the MK Show, live on SiriusXM's The Megyn Kelly Channel, 111 at noon East, on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, and on all podcast platforms.